Hello, awesome folks. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at Michael Stackpole's Warrior on Garde. It's the first book of the Warrior trilogy that we're going to be doing a deeper dive into. It was published in 1988. It's Michael Stackpole's first novel. Michael Stackpole started off writing in the Battletech universe in this trilogy. It was published in '88, and this is a sequel. A reprinting rather from 1998 after the Battletech series was published by Rock. The initial Battletech books were published by FASA, the company that made the board game, and the board game that originally kicked things off, and other things too. So they published the original series of novels, and then they republished all but one under the Rock label after Rock took over the publishing rights for it. Michael A. Stackpole got a big start from this and his writing. And so one of the things that and then he'll move on to other series fictions, although he'll come back to Battletech sometimes. He's probably more well-known among, science fiction fans for his stuff in the Star Wars universe, in the expanded universe, before it became Legends. And so he's a big name from that. He wrote he started and wrote the X-Wing series for that, starring people like Wedge and Tillies. So he has a lot of major things that he's done in several different series fictions. He's also written a bunch of fantasy stuff. His first novel was a high fantasy novel. He submitted it to a publisher. The publisher said it was probably too long for the first novel, so he held on to it. And then after some of his science fiction was published, the fantasy novel Tally and Revenant was published later on. So I'm a big fan of Michael Stackpole. I follow a lot of his stuff. I haven't read his Star Wars stuff, but he was, when I was growing up, my favorite writer in the Battletech universe. But now going back and reading him after reading the William H. Keefe Jr. Trilogy, I like him a little bit less. So we'll see what winds up happening. This is, so this book here that I read, Warrior on Garde, it's about 360 pages long. So my goal was to knock out 90 pages each day and finish it in 4 days. It was a little bit slower than the William H. Keefe trilogy that we just finished for you. That starts the Great Death Legion, and that kicks off the Battletech franchise with more than 100 novels in it. And this is another key thing that puts Michael Stackpole on a map in a major way. So one of the things that wound up happening is that his writing style is very different. It's still, I would say, military science fiction in the sense that, it's in the future and it has military things that are happening in it, battles and so forth, like William H. Keefe, but less military science fiction and more political science fiction. There are a lot of key political figures, like leaders of successor states, leaders of stuff like that. Battle planning's less a key part of it. The battles are much shorter. For example, William H. Keefe, who got this thing started, he might have entire battles that might take chapters to go over. For example, you might have our key character, the guy who just founded the Great Death Legion of mercenaries, and he might have a battle with he's in a battle mech. He might have a battle that's for a chapter, just one battle between him and another battle mech that's of equivalent size. And it's rough, and he finally wins. And then at the end of the chapter, he's just attacked by a bigger battle mech. And oh my God, how's he going to survive, right? And so now the next chapter is the next part of that. You see what I'm saying, right? And a multi-pronged battle with infantry might have a couple of chapters in a battle, and the aerospace units led by Tor might have a couple of chapters, right, and so forth, that go over what they're doing. And then the battle mechs might have 3 or 4 chapters, since they're the kings of the battlefield. And I like that sort of a deeper dive into the combat scenes. The combat scenes under Stackpole's first novel and 100 pages into the second novel, going back and rereading this for the first time, are much different. He might spend a chapter on that has a battle in it, but the battle might only be like a half a chapter, and chapters like only like 8 pages long, right? So he might only give 3 or 4 pages to a battle, and then he goes over the after effects and so forth, and then moves on to the next. So his battle scenes are much less, and there's a lot more politics. So if you're interested in your political thrillers set in the future, with a military science fiction sort of secondary genre, then Michael Stackpole is your guy. And he was my favorite writer in the Battletech series after I finished reading it. So basically, I started reading the Battletech series when I was in 10th grade. And I started with the tertiary books that were published in the Rock series that I mentioned before. And so I wound up Definitely enjoying the first 3 books that were published, and so I went back and picked up a bunch of books that had already been published, and read them all pretty quickly, back to back to back to back. And then as each of the next ones were published, I would buy as soon as it was published at my local Walton Books in Southern West Virginia, and I would wind up reading them as soon as they were released and keeping up with that throughout high school, college, and then grad school. And then I stopped reading the books and keeping up with them, and I've never gone back and reread them. So one of the things I've been doing for this channel is I've been going back and reading things that I read in grade school or college or high school or junior high, and have not gone back to them and reread them the second time, and then seeing what I think of them decades later. Right now I'm 45, right? And I've got lots more experience with reading things and genres and so forth. And what do I think about these things going back? Michael Stackpole's a big name, right? He's written a lot of things. This is his first novel. So going back and rereading him and seeing what I think of him now. And now I think William H. Keith, Great Death Jr. stuff was probably, I liked it better. So I gave his first novel that he published in the Battletech series a 7+. And I'm giving Michael Stackpole a 7. It's still riveting. It's still interesting. I just don't find it, but this is supposed to be military science fiction, and I just don't feel like the military combat scenes are just done as well, as fleshed out, as interestingly as William H. Keith Jr., the guy who kicked things off. But I like it. I think there's a lot of good things that are happening here. Anyway, so I'm going to be giving this a 7 out of 10 rather than a proper. Now, again, I wanted to divide this up into 90 pages a day. So I knocked out 90 the first day on a Thursday. I'm sorry, on a Wednesday, just like I was supposed to. The next day on Thursday, I did 110 pages. So I was faster. I was 200 pages out of a 316-page novel. Put me passing half place. Then on a Friday, I usually have a game night. So I have less time to read after work hours. So I only knocked out another 70 hours to get 70 pages rather to get me caught back up with 270 pages read. So I had 90 on yesterday, which was Saturday. And then I knocked out this novel, the last 90 pages, and then I was still in Battletech mode. So I knocked out the first 100 pages of the sequel, right? So I read 190 pages, even though I'm only giving this book a 7 out of 10 rather than the 7+ I gave to William H. Keith Jr.'s first novel. It's definitely something interesting. I also like that the sequel, which I'll talk about more when I do the review of the sequel, is like 60 pages or less. So it's probably going to take me like a lot less to read, which I enjoyed, and so forth. So even though I still don't like his combat scenes to the same degree as the amazing combat scenes of William H. Keith Jr. that kicked off the series, I'm still enjoying going back and rereading this series for the first time. I've never read one of the Battletech novels more than once. So it's nice to go back and reread this sort of stuff, and I'm enjoying it. Now, so again, this is my first time reviewing one of my channels. I do not do spoiler reviews. So the only thing I'm going to tell you is that this is set in the 3020s, in the late 3020s, and this book is the sort of the prelude to the fourth succession war, which the next book will kick off, and then the final book in the series will finish up. So basically, it's a trilogy that tells the fourth succession war. So if you're familiar with the Battletech universe, then you can skip this next part. But basically, what winds up happening, if this is your first time encountering it, basically the Battletech universe is divided into war games, role-playing games called Mech Warrior, a board game that kicked things off, novels, more than 100 novels, cartoon, a collectible card game put out by Wizards of the Coast, the big card game maker. Lots of different things are out there. Video games you might know from back in the 90s, like Mech Warrior, or which was a big, heavily influential game in the 90s, or the modern day Battletech video game, or there's also a Mech Warrior online as well. So you might know it from modern day battle games as too, and that sort of a thing. So basically, the sort of core central idea is that in the 31st century, combat has evolved, but we have not. We've gone out there, we have colonized thousands of star systems and planets in them, and but we have never found anybody other than ourselves intelligent-wise. So we're the only people that are out there. So we have brought our own issues with us. The same issues that we have that divide us, the same issues that we have that cause wars in our worlds are still causing wars in the future. So basically, it's in the 31st century. There was about a 300 period of time under something called the Star League, which was this sort of the bright era of mankind. We were exploring, setting up colonies, helping people out, developing medicine, and those sorts of things. Then this guy called Amaris took over in a coup, and then there was a civil war against him. And then about 300 years have passed, and we've gone through three succession wars up to the point of this teller, and then by the end of this trilogy, the fourth succession war that have followed with these 5 successor states that are all vying for the Star League power. And they've divided the central region called the inner sphere of mankind into these various things. Now, I love the central premise and the central conceit. There's not aliens. Nothing has brought us together, right? We aren't any more advanced in 1,000 years from now than we are now. All right, the same issues that divide us now are going to be the same issues that divide us in 1,000 years. I enjoy that central conceit because it really has a lot of sense. And then there are like tanks and mechs and infantry and hovercraft and helicopters and airplanes and aerospace fighters that fight out in airspace as well as in the atmosphere, as well as warships, dropships, and that you'll learn more about, and jump ships that you'll learn more about in the books too, that are naval assets in the Blackwater Navy. So there's a lot of fun stuff that's happening. It's definitely a military science fiction thing. Military science fiction, by the way, is my favorite subgenre of science fiction, so I definitely enjoy it. And but again, Michael Stackpole's is more of a political science fiction with a military aspect added to it, taped onto it, rather than just a pure proper thing. His stuff in the Battletech universe will typically push the themes of it. He'll have like 10 different plots in the novel that he'll keep coming back to, and key battles that we've been waiting for like chapters. Might have a chapter that tells the entire battle, right, between a company and a company of mechs, of 12 mechs on the side or something like that. Whereas William H. Keith Jr., the person who started off the series, might spend 4 or 5 chapters on it, and really do a deeper dive into it. But spent less time on the politics, but still had some political stuff in there. For example, the third novel in the Great Death Legion, which I've already reviewed for you, the units betrayed and are believed to be war criminals that have violated the Ares Convention, and so now they're on the backside. Well, that obviously has a political aspect to it, right? But there still is a military aspect. There's still fighting and combats and those sorts of things too, right? Their second campaign the second book is a guerrilla warfare. Obviously, that has political aspects to it, right, in the way that's being written and so forth. But again, but it focuses on the battles, right, and so forth. But anyway, so there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. It's a 7 out of 10. By the way, his significant other is Liz Danforth, whom he gives the introductory and dedicates the book to. And I own a piece of art by Liz Danforth that was also done for the Battletech universe, which is pretty cool. It's the 21st Centauri Lancers, which are from a mercenary handbook. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read this novel? What did you think of it? Would you like to talk about the spoilers in the comments below? If you like this review, why not hit that subscribe button? There'll be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.